Hello, today we are making a Tuscan salmon pasta with lobster tail bites. In this portion of the clip, you will see me loosening up the back of the lobster tail so that I can cut it down the middle and get the lobster meat out. It was a little difficult, not gonna lie. Lobster is really hard to break down, but I was able to get all of the meat out. And we're just going to cut it up into bite-sized pieces once we get it open. And we're going to soak it in some lemon juice to clean it once we get it out. And that thing came out so clean. Look at it. So clean, so easy. All right, so here we have some cherry tomatoes, our lobster tail and lemon juice. We have some cleaned spinach. And we also have our salmon that's been skinned and sitting in lemon juice as well. So I'm just boiling some linguine pasta. Season your water. And now we're going to pat down that salmon that was sitting in that lemon juice. Pat it down nice and dry so that when you season it, your seasonings will stick and they will not fall off once you put them in. Seasonings here. We're going to season vigorously, very generously with Tony's, some Salmon Magic. This stuff is the real deal. Make sure you season it good. And we're going to use some onion powder and some garlic powder as well. And you want to make sure you season your salmon good because sometimes it doesn't take complete seasoning and essential. And we're going to use our handy dandy Tuscan garlic and herb seasoning by Kingsford. This is my absolute favorite. You can find this in Dollar Tree sometimes for like $1. And then we're going to flip it over, pat the other side down. You're going to make sure you pat that seasoning in before you flip it over so it's nice and compact. And then we're going to flip it over and you're going to do the same thing on the other side. And I did get this skinned at Publix, de-skinned. And you're going to want to make sure you add some fresh lemon juice on that salmon. For some reason, when you cook seafood, it needs to have that lemon juice. It needs it to taste good. So make sure you add it. All right, pasta is done. I'm just going to drain that off on the side and put it in some cold water. And then we're going to add some olive oil to our pan. I have a flat pan and I'm going to put my salmon in to cook it. And we're just going to lay that out. Make sure that pan is nice and hot so that the salmon can get a nice sear on it and cook all the way through. Squeeze in more lemon juice. And then we're going to cook our cherry tomatoes. So in this pan, I also had olive oil warming up. And we're just going to let those stew down. Alrighty, so everything is going good so far. Just make sure you start mixing up your tomatoes. And we're going to season those up with some garlic powder, some more of our Tuscan Kingsford seasoning, and a complete seasoning. It's just a mix of seasonings that I added into one of my jars. Nothing special. And we're just going to mix that seasoning all together and make sure it's nice and incorporated. These tomatoes were so delicious and they stewed down so nicely. All right, remember guys, clean as you go. It saves stress. So I was rushing with this meal. I actually made this meal for Father's Day. I got off work a little late, but I still wanted to make dinner for him and make him feel special. So I cooked him up something he requested. So at this point, you should be flipping your salmon over. For some reason, this pan was not distributing my oil and my butter evenly. So I had to keep moving the pan around. So don't forget, check on your tomatoes, and then you're going to add your spinach in. Once your cooked tomatoes have stewed down the way you prefer, then add in your spinach. And just mix that all together, make sure everything is incorporated. And then I'm going to add some herb butter on top of my salmon so that it gets more flavor. So I'll put in a little bit of Kerrygold garlic and herb butter, and then we're going to season that up with some Tony seasoning, Cajun seasoning, and a little bit of this Everglade seasoning I had left. And back in again with the Tuscan garlic and herb seasoning. You will also see me include some pink salt just for flavor. Remember to season your food to your liking. I did taste the spinach and it just needed a little bit of salt, so you'll see me adding that now. And we're just going to remove that off. And now we're going to add some butter in the pan so that we can cook our lobster. That salmon looking so pretty. Look at it. All right, lobster tail going down. I did season it a little bit, not a lot, just a little bit. And cooking it in the lemon juice at first so that some of that seafood taste goes away, like that fishy taste. And then I'm gonna remove the lemon juice, and I'll just add a little bit more back with some butter, and I'm gonna season it up a little bit with our Tonys again, and a little bit of that garlic and herb. So I tried to keep the seasonings consistent throughout the meal and try not to use too many different things so that the flavor stayed the same. But again, you can season your food to your liking. I'm gonna put in a little bit of minced garlic too. And we're just gonna cook that down until the lobster tail is cooked. You don't want to cook it too much so that it's not overcooked. So and I cooked it on like 6 on my stove, which is like medium, I guess medium high. So you want to cook everything at about medium high. So I'm just moving the oil around in the butter on my salmon because it was sitting at a weird angle, so it wasn't distributing properly. So just make sure you keep your eye on both while you're cooking. If it's easier for you, you can cook each thing one at a time and then just incorporate them. So this part is the most pivotal part of the whole entire meal. So in this pan, I have butter that I melted with about a tablespoon of flour to make a roux. So you don't want a dark roux. You want a nice light skinned roux, and you are going to stir that with your whisk until it has this consistency right here. We are making our Alfredo sauce. So you're going to whisk that until it's nice and incorporated. Then we're going to add heavy whipping cream. You're going to mix that heavy whipping cream in until it is nice and incorporated. And as you're whisking, you'll start to feel it thickening up. That's what you want. You want to make sure you have a nice, good consistency on your Alfredo sauce. So just continue to whisk. We're gonna add a little bit more because I want to make a lot. And I'm gonna add some sour cream for creaminess, and then you'll see me throw in some minced garlic as well. And we're just gonna continue to whisk. You're gonna whisk, just whisk your life away, because this has to come out right. So once we're done whisking it up and it's at a good consistency, you want to then add in your cheeses. So I use Parmesan and mozzarella cheese, which is normally what I always use. I did have a little bit of extra Parmesan cheese left that I wanted to get rid of, so you'll see me adding that first. And then I'm just going to add some Sargento cheese that I picked up from Publix. It was on sale for 2 for $4, so I just used that. But you can also grate it fresh too. So I'm just kind of eyeballing it. About half of the pack goes in, but if you want it more cheesy, you can always add more cheese. And we're just going to continue to whisk that. So what the flour does is it gives it that thickness. The longer that it cooks, it's going to combine really well and make it into that nice Alfredo sauce. So you're just going to continue whisking. So you'll see me really taking my time with this because I want to make sure that consistency is right. So as that cheese melts, the consistency is going to get really nice. So you see here it's starting to come together now. There you go. So it was a little too thick for me, so I did end up adding a little bit of water to thin it out, and then it was perfect. But this is good here if you want to just add your pasta in at this point, you can. I just wanted mine a little bit thinner. So then we'll add back in that spinach and cherry tomato mixture. Do not add a lot of that liquid because that will thin it out too much. And then you're just going to incorporate that in, and then we'll throw our lobster pieces in there as well. So that is really coming together very nicely. All right, so at this point, the lobster tail is in, and I'm just mixing this around, moving it around a little bit. And then now we're gonna add in our pasta. So I did make 1 whole box of pasta. Depending on how many people you're cooking for, you can cut this recipe in half. You don't have to cook a whole lot of pasta. So we're just going to mix that around, make sure everything is very nicely incorporated. So as you see, that Alfredo sauce is looking good. A canned Alfredo sauce could never look like this. And plus, everything's better homemade. So when your bae tastes this, they're going to be like, wow, you cooked this from scratch? Little do they know, it don't even take that much work. And I actually finished this meal in about 30 minutes, to be honest. So I'm gonna put in some of that Tuscan seasoning because we want that Tuscan flavor, and a little bit of the Tony's for some kick. And we're just gonna mix that in. I didn't do too much seasonings because the lobster tail was nicely seasoned and the spinach and tomatoes was nicely seasoned. So you're gonna taste it. And here's the finished product. So I did go ahead and toast up some bread to put with it, but it came out so beautifully. Thank you all for watching. The ingredients will be posted in the details.